Let's say you're connected to a few databases. There's some developer who has already stored it in some string format because that's how they have received it. And you need to perform all these modifications to save it and so on. So these are going to become more and more complicated over time. And here's how we get to perform resolution first. Let's try it out. Now we have two simple functions to do this. We have strp time and strf time. These two functions will help us perform this simple operation. strf time is to, F stands for format a date time object to a string. strp time is where P stands for parse a string to a date time object. So just remember, if you want to format something, it's already in a good format. You're converting it into a string. If you want to pass, you pass strings into an object. That's exactly what we do. So let's look at these two functions. Let's see how we work around them. Let's see how we can use some different kinds of strings to convert them into date time. Pass a string to a date time object, strf time, format a date time object into a string. So these are the two simple operations we have. Let's do that. First step, let's take a date, d1 or date1, or let's call it as date string. And let's make it Halloween, 31st October 2023. Right, so yeah, let's name it something like this. Now let's go ahead to the next task. This is a string. I'm just using one single string at our end. What if there are various strings in this format? What if an entire Excel file that you have received from some client consists of exactly this format? Now, at this point of time, you have to go through each one of those strings and convert them to date time in order to perform some operation on it, in order to perform any kind of operation on top of it. In that case, let's see how to do that. In our case, since it's a string and we need to convert it to a datetime object, we're going to use strp time. strp time is a function that is available within datetime class. So to use that, I need to take datetime module. From there, I need to import datetime class. From there, I need to use strp time function. And here's how it is. You have to enter the date string and then you have to enter what format it is in. So let's enter the date string first. The date string is this spooky date string that we have. And then we need to enter the format it is in. And this is where it's important for us to know what is that format. We have an existing logic for this. Date time, Python. If you take a look at this, just keep scrolling down for a while. You should find the format over somewhere here. Let me just scroll down further, perhaps. Okay, yeah, there we go. Here we go. So strf time and strp time format codes. This is what you need. So I'm just gonna send this link for reference because we will use this to convert some strings into data formats. Now I can see here, if you have sun, month, or any specific day of the month, weekday, abbreviated or non-abbreviated. So one thing that you get to see is if it's abbreviated, you will have lowercase. If it's non-abbreviated, you'll have uppercase. This is one thing that we might constantly see when it comes down to this. So same way, month, when it's abbreviated, it's percentage lowercase b. When it's non-abbreviated, it's in full form, it is percentage uppercase b. And this is what we need. Let's remember, we have OCT, which is October. So we have percentage b in lowercase. So let's just remember this. In our case, it is date, we don't know. For month, it is percentage b. And then we have hyphen followed by year. Now, for date, let's take a look at this. For date, it's a pretty simple thing. Before that, we have an year. Again, year abbreviated is with 2 digits without the century. Year not abbreviated is 4 digits with the century. So let's take percentage y. Then we have date. Let's take up date of the month. Let's walk through this. And there we go. Percentage D for the day of the month. This is what we have. And that's pretty much it. This is the format you need in. Once you have this format, just pass this format along with this. That is, you have this in the following format. Once you pass the format along with this, you can just store the result date here. And if you print type of resulting date as well as resulting date, you will get to see it's a date time object and you've got year, month, date. Hours, minutes, and seconds are not there because we haven't specified them, and that's basically the whole idea. So please take a look at this. Just observe this for a few seconds and take a look at this link as well. Just try to replicate it or work around this at your end if you'd like. And we'll just continue ahead in a few seconds. We'll continue ahead with similar operations at our end. Right. Now, moving along from here, let's go on to the next part of this. Let's go on to the next case. Let's remember, this is what we have, and I want you to perform something similar. And I'm just gonna ask you to utilize one very simple date string. I'm gonna provide a date string. All I need you to do is provide the format that will be required for the date string. That's all, nothing else. Right. This is your string. All I want you to do is just go to that particular format code page. Just try to get the format for the string. That's all. We will not expect these kind of strings at all in reality, but I just want you to try it out. That's pretty much it. So please take a look at this and try this out, and um, let's see how that works. Right, you can just give it a try. Let's see. Okay, we'll just wait for a few more seconds, hopefully. Otherwise, we'll just try to work around it. Right. A clue for this, just remember, within the string, anything that is not a part of the date, anything that is constant, you can keep it as it is. Our constant stuff here is year followed by a space. Only 2023 needs to be changed. Of month is going to be constant, only January needs to be changed. With date is constant, only 21 needs to be changed. Whatever is in bold, that's the one that you should replace. Just a simple clue. Let's try it out. We'll just try it for maybe a few seconds, and yeah, we'll move away from it soon. All right, so yeah, um, all right, we'll just try it out in that case. Let's see how it works out. Now, let's take a look at this. Let's create this particular date over here. Now, result date will again be datetime dot string parse time of the non-spooky date string that we have with the format. Now let's remember, format is going to be pretty similar to this. I'm just going to copy the same thing off the bat. We have a full year, which is percentage uppercase Y. We have a full month, which is percentage uppercase P. And we have a date, which is just going to be percentage D. That's it. Once we do this, we should be able to try this out, and it should convert it to that exact format as we expected. And that's pretty much all there is. That's all there is to it, nothing else. That's how it works. Now, moving ahead, let's go to the next part of this. We've just taken a look at how it works when we take a string and convert it to date time. We can do the exact opposite as well. We can convert a date time over to string format too, on the other hand. Let's just see how that works out and how we get to work around with it. Let's take this exact same date and let's assume you want to convert this date into a string format. Let's try it out. Once we got this date, if you want to convert it to a string format, you're just going to use .strf time. We're going to format it over from date time to a string. Now, there are two ways to do this, two simple ways to do this. You can use the date.strf time and just use the format because you already have a date variable, you can use it. If you don't want to use it with the date variable, you can use it with the class datetime.strf time dot of where you provide the object there. So there are two ways to do it. Directly access the class, access the function, provide the object there, or use the object dot string format time and provide the format there. The format I'm going to provide here. So you can pretty much make it in any way you want. Like it could be like the olden days where they announced it in front of kings, like the day of the month or the Sunday of the month of the year or whatever it could be. So all those things can be made however you want. So if there are certain cases where you might have to store it with some additional string content in between, you can particularly do this. Again, it's not a very highly used way where we convert date time to string. However, you can perform it and you can do these operations just so we are aware of it. Just one thing that we need to know. Right. So moving ahead, let's move on to the next part of this. Now that we know this, now that we're aware of this, let's move on to the next part of this. The next thing, one of the most, okay, let's print this result. We haven't done that. I'm just going to print this directly. Of course, you can store it in a string and then print it. That's totally um, up to us, but I'm just going to print it directly. And you can see this is the result at the end. So yeah, let's move along from here to the next case. The last thing I want to tag along when it comes down to date time is time zones. Let's look into this. Now, assume that there is a shopping website and they want to provide free gifts to everyone who orders within a particular date or time or something like that. Let's assume something like that. Now, at that point of time, since it might be, let's say, sorry, since it might be, let's say, a lot of different countries from where you will get the data, a lot of different countries from where you'll get the information. In such case, how will you get to know? You will only get the information of date, time, and time zone. You need to convert it to the current time zone to midnight of your country's time zone, not their country's time zone, because your offer is supposed to only last for 24 hours, not more than that. Or another case, somebody accesses your web page. You can have your static date, but what if somebody sends a date from their time zone? I'll give you a simple example. There are sales performed in, let's say, Germany, and then there are sales performed, let's say, in New York. Given the time zone difference, you're going to have time differences or timed differences when you calculate when the sales were made, on which day the sales were made. So there will be differences in those terms, especially when you calculate, let's say, how much sales were made on those days, and you want to compare it with the total amount of money that has come up to the company's accounts or something like that. There are a lot of reasons why we might use this to convert from, let's say, one time zone to another. And that's exactly what we are going to look at now. That is how to convert from time zones to time zones. Let's start with this. Right. Oh, sorry, I forgot to start here. Let's go ahead and do this. In order to work around time zone, you have a module. Let's again import it at the beginning. This is called PyTZ. PyTZ, let me see if it's not available. We might have to import it. Let's try it out. Yeah, there we go. It's available as PyTZ. Now, once this is installed, PyTZ, we can use it in order to utilize any time zone. Since all of you, I believe, or most of you, I believe, are in US Eastern time zone, I'm just going to use PyTZ dot time zone of Yeah, there we go. We got this exactly here, US/Eastern. You can specifically provide the time zone like this, or you can also provide it in terms of the time zone with respect to hours difference, plus 5:30, minus 5, or whatever it could be. Let's set the current time zone to be Eastern time zone. And you need to create an object out of this when you set the time zone. So the object we're going to create is, let's say, Eastern time zone object or something like that. Or let's just call it as Eastern time zone and avoid just specifying it as object. Now, once this is done, we just have to perform a few simple operations ahead of it. That is, any date you provide, you just have to convert to that time zone. Like, for example, if I calculate a date in my time zone, I believe it's 6 to 8 hours, or oh yeah, further than that, maybe 10 or 11 hours in difference compared to where you are. So if I print, or if I take the current date time here, let's take date time dot date dot, yeah, I need time as well. So let's take date time dot date time dot now. I'll just specify it as my time zone date, and I'll just print my time zone date. It's gonna give me okay, it's gonna give me an output saying that it's 26th October 2023, 11:22, and whatever the rest of the time is. I don't want it in my time zone. Let's say, for instance, I want it to be converted to Eastern time zone to perform some sort of operation. Let's say if I want to send a mail from where I am, just to think about a random case scenario. If I want to send an email which is supposed to be automated, and in this particular case scenario, if I send it from my time zone, it's 11 p.m. It's just gonna add a salutation saying good evening. So, um, good evening is not the salutation I wanted to add because I'm sending it to a person who's not in this time zone. So if I have, let's say, for example, some information about the time zone, I can just take my particular time zone in, let's say, my particular location, and just add a simple function called as time zone to it. It'll convert it to a different time zone. I'll just take my time zone, sorry, not my, yeah, my time zone date dot as time zone. Here you provide the object of the time zone what you created. Once you do this and you print it, it's basically going to give you the time zone in US Eastern, which is okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot one little change. One little change. Let's make one little change. When we talk about as time zone, this particular date time, whatever it is, you essentially get it. Let's store the result first, and let me show you this. Done. Right. At this point of time, it's still date time. However, when you print it, there's a very minor difference that you get to observe. When you print this result, there's a minor difference that you get to observe, that is this. It specifically points out what is the time zone. Otherwise, by default, when it's local time zone, it really doesn't add time zone as a part of this parameter. It's not selected at all. However, on the other hand, it does select it and performs this little operation and adds the time zone along with the time. So it's 1:54 p.m., I presume, over there, almost 2 p.m. And that's exactly the time you get. So you get to realize the time difference and appropriately whatever operation you need to perform for some different time zone based operations, you can do that. So yeah, this is just one thing that we need to know when it comes down to time zone, or so on. So yeah, let's go ahead to the next part of this. Till now, if there are any queries, please feel free to ask. Any queries at all, please let me know. Whatever query you might have, please feel free to let me know. All right, so I believe not many queries, which means we are good with this. So yeah, in that case, we can move ahead to the next part of things. Right. So before we go ahead to the major part of this, which is database connectivity and some additional packages that we need to learn ahead as well, there are a couple of things that I want to point out. Just one additional module that we are yet to work on and learn, that is regular expressions. So in interest of time, what we'll do is we'll take ahead regular expression ahead in time. Instead, let's for now focus on a few things that we work on when it comes down to uh, Python and performing a lot of operations in Python applications that will help us be better developers. So that's one thing that I want to point out beforehand. So let's do this. And once we perform this, we can then go ahead to, let's say, a few more packages and learn how to utilize every other thing better. What I'm talking about is async and multi, multi-threading. Now, before we start async and multi-threading, just to ask a query, are you all aware of async and multi-threading operations on a basic level and able to work around just to know and understand what is async, what is multi-threading, or would you like us to start it and get to understand it from scratch? I just need you guys to let me know with a text in response or so on. That'll help me understand this. Please let me know. So anyone can just let me know over text. That is, um, so any query till now, I just want to know your, let's say, level of expertise on the logic when it comes down to async and multiprocessing, particularly. Oh, sorry, multi-threading. I'm so sorry again. So just wanted to know your level of understanding. It could be from 1 to 5 to anything. Just one single message or one single text or any such thing would help out a lot. So, okay, awesome. Right. So we have a couple of responses up accordingly. That's right. So I've worked on them. They're not obvious, but would like a refresher as well. All right, that's absolutely fine. We will definitely be able to take a look at and work around that. That should not be an issue. Now, let's start with the async first and learn what that is, and uh, then go ahead with, then go ahead to multiprocessing after that. So again, I'm so sorry, multi-threading after that. So yeah. Now, since some of us are new to async operations, I'll just point out async operations is one of the best ways to utilize your processing power, to utilize your CPU, to make sure that it's able to perform all operations, all tasks possible in a really good way. And that's exactly what we will look into to begin with. Now, let's go ahead and get started with this. All right, I'm so sorry. Please hold on for just a few seconds meanwhile. Kindly hold on. All right, so apologies for the slight delay. Let's get back to this. So the whole idea of async in any programming language is that wait time does not exist. There is no waiting time. That's the whole idea of async. Now think about this. Again, to start with this, I'm just going to go for an analogy of async to begin with. I'm just going to take a very different analogy to begin with. Let's assume you have just gone to a restaurant to order some food and you're waiting for the food to arrive. Now, until the food is prepared and it arrives, you have some time. You can either wait until that time, or you can choose to do something like call up a friend and ask how they're doing, or just finish up some work or do other tasks. This is exactly what we expect to happen in computers. Wait time is stopped to make sure other operations are done by the CPU. And here's how it works. Whenever we talk about CPU, every application that you run will run as a thread. That's the whole point. Each application will run as a thread. And when we run our application,